What if the next medical breakthrough could change thousands of lives? Welcome to Moving Medicine Forward, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on groundbreaking healthcare innovations. I'm your host, Jeremy Schrand, and together with CTI's leading experts, we explore the cutting edge of clinical research transforming patient care. Each episode, we dive deep into the stories behind medical advancements, featuring insights from global therapeutic experts who are literally changing how we understand and treat critical disease. From rare genetic conditions to revolutionary treatment protocols, we're not just discussing research, we're highlighting the human stories driving medical progress. Today, we're diving into the dynamic world of clinical research across the Middle East and Africa. Joining us is Alaa, Assem, Managing Director of CTI's Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. With decades of experience spanning both the sponsor and CRO sides of the industry, Alaa brings a wealth of insight into how clinical trials are evolving in one of the world's most diverse and fast-growing regions. From the early days of regulatory development to the post-COVID transformation of public perception and government engagement, Alaa shares how CTI has built a strong local presence, supported vaccine innovation, and helped bring cutting-edge therapies to patients who need them most. Whether you're in biotech, clinical operations, or just curious about how global research is expanding, this episode is packed with perspective and purpose. Let's get started. Welcome to the podcast, Alaa. We're so lucky to have you on today to hear about your history.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here. My name is Alaa Assem. I'm the Managing Director for CTI, Europe, Middle East, Africa region. Again, my background, I'm an MD with a degree in ophthalmology. I have an MBA. I've been in the industry primarily in pharma and big pharma. I worked across the Middle East, Africa region, and then joined the CRO industry around almost 14 years now in the CRO industry. So I worked on the sponsor side and then on the CRO side. I've been part of CTI since 2020, initially as a managing director for Middle East Africa, and now as Europe, Middle East Africa.
So let's talk about the Middle East Africa region at CTI and the expertise that we have there and how we support those regions in clinical trials.
Actually, we have a very long and history in the region. We have, as a company, our roots go back to 2001, so almost 24, 25 years of experience on the ground in the region. And that gives us definitely a very strong edge in terms of local expertise. Although the region is quite big, but we've also been evolving. The company started originally in the Gulf, in Dubai, and expanded into other countries, primarily Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and from there also now further expanded into other parts. So we're covering a big part of the Middle East and North Africa, and we also work with some partners in other regions, in other parts of the region. So definitely we have grown as well our expertise in the region, our capabilities to be able to support the growing needs of the region and help develop the capabilities there. I think CTI now we can consider to be one of the well-established CROs in the region, and probably the first to really have such a structure and setup. Because of the diversity of the region, you really need to have people on the ground in each market because there are very specific requirements as well. And I think that's probably one of the things that is very important when we talk about Middle East Africa. It's a very diverse region and many countries, and you really need to be able to approach each country based on the local situation. Of course, in research, there are global standards, but how can actually take that global standards and work as well according to the local requirements, understanding the differences in each country and what is really needed to execute and support those projects in the region.
You have lots of experience in clinical research. What has it been like watching clinical research evolve in the MEA region, and how has it evolved?
I've been around for a long time, so definitely I can say I have witnessed major changes and milestones in research. While if I go back to my early days when I started, I was actually even working as a CRA at very early days, managing early studies, some of the very early studies in pharma days. And definitely there was a lot of willingness and interest on the side, but definitely there was needed a lot of support in training, in capabilities about GCP and understanding of the requirements. So we have seen a strong evolution in terms of how countries evolved in setting up guidelines and regulations that is actually in compliance with the international standards, while at the same time considering the local needs and requirements. There has been steps in this, so it didn't really occur all in like one time over the years, and also how the perception of the general public about participation in clinical trial have changed tremendously.
Yeah.
From being initially very restrictive and afraid and concerned about clinical trials and what does it mean being really tested for new drugs, now to actually patients seeking globally and sometimes even traveling abroad to participate in clinical trials. Again, definitely social media have opened the world that people now can see and can communicate and understand about it. So both on the local public awareness and understanding, but also on the government side. COVID, on the other hand, COVID has actually, we can say the prior to COVID and post-COVID, there also has been another major shift in a lot of countries recognizing how it is critical to have capabilities in clinical research, to be part of the global development, what's happening in the world, actually, because this is also of prime importance to be able to provide solutions into the world when you go into such lock-up situation, what happened with COVID. If you don't really not able to cater for this on a local level and have the abilities, not only for COVID, but across many critical disease areas, also the needs might differ. The priorities in a certain country might differ from the others. So we've seen also another major transformation in the regulatory environment in the region. And of course, certain countries are more ahead than other countries, but definitely now we have multiple locations where actually actively seeking to bring innovation and encourage companies to come, like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and other countries are now welcoming a lot of biotech companies to come and establish in the region and develop their products and providing them with a lot of infrastructure, biotech hubs, and support in terms of facilities to be able to really develop and contribute to the drug development.
So recently, speaking of COVID, you just went to the World Vaccine Congress. Vaccine research, is that growing there as well? Is that growing in the region as well?
It is definitely the region in particular. I mean, if I look at the bigger region, we're talking about Middle East Africa. Definitely Africa as in itself is a huge, of course, interest in vaccine and a big vaccine research, because especially of some of the areas where this is very important from the local needs of the population. And also the Middle East, there are definitely a huge interest in vaccine research. So overall, yes, it is one of the important areas in vaccine research, and building capabilities in those areas and in those countries is very important. Vaccine studies are also very unique and different from maybe other therapeutic areas, the way how they are managed, and also because in many cases you're actually looking at a healthy population, and so recruitment of healthy population is very different from other population. But also the vaccine now is also, we don't only see vaccine research for infectious disease, because also it was always tied with infectious disease. Now we also see vaccine development for cancer treatment, for cancer prevention. So again, this area is growing, and definitely our region, or the Middle East Africa region, is very critical in that. And as CTI, definitely we are very interested to see how, from a regional perspective, how we can be part of that growth and interest, and developing capabilities to support research in the vaccine.
There was a biotech that wanted to come to the region. What was something that you would tell them before they bring their trial to the region, or something that you would tell them that would make them want to bring their trial to the region?
For any sponsor, I think the main, what they are looking for is patients, right? They want to, they want to get to the study, they want to ensure that the sites are also able to deliver quality data. So they are looking for patient recruitment, and they're also looking for sites that are able to execute the study. I think clearly we are able to show or demonstrate that actually the sites in the region, in many countries, and again, I have to always explain the diversity.
Yes, very
diverse. The starting point. Understanding as well the specific needs of that study from a patient population, but also from the execution. How can we match this? our expertise, we would be able to advise where to go, which phase, where we are able actually to provide such support. There are some very general features of the region that are very important to demonstrate. I think some of the barriers to come to the region is lack of knowledge about the region and some wrong perceptions about the region. And that's sometimes the first, usually in our discussion, is to try to clarify what we have seen over my 20 plus or 30 years in the clinical research is that people who come to the region, people who see, have a very completely, change perspective about it, because what they see is very extremely, different from, or very different from what they have perceived prior to coming or interacted with people in the region. Again, that doesn't have to be, I'm not saying all the countries, we have a huge spectrum of countries from at a very high level of development, from an infrastructure, from economic and healthcare. And we have countries that are still evolving and emerging and actually have gaps. And it's just, and actually that's an advantage in itself, because having this wide spectrum can help you as well where to allocate. All studies is fit for all. If I'm talking about cell and gene therapy study, which requires a lot of logistics, definitely I need to cater for infrastructure, delivery, of the site, experience at the site, and how it can develop or support this type of studies. The standard of care in the region is also an important point, where sometimes a lot of sponsors are very interested to understand. And again, I always say the standard of care in the region are not different from especially the Western world, because again, our education system, most of the training is happening usually in the Western side of the world, what we study. The language used in medicine, I would say in 80% of the countries in the region is English, with the exception then the other countries will be using French. So again, very easy to communicate, very easy to access to, like if you want access to the medical records of the patients or to the lab results or to any documents, it's all in a language that you require minimum translation. You don't really need someone from monitoring in the site. You actually can bring someone from the US to monitor in the region, and you will have no communication issues or access to information. And that facilitates the process, right? And the alignment, and about also the standard of care. So there are many general points that definitely is attractive. You just need to break it down and change the perception and be open about that. And I think cost is also another definitely clear advantage. But CTI is at advantage actually at this point of time compared even to some other CROs, actually, that we have that already presence. We don't actually need to
find someone
to do the work. I think in most of the cases, at least, even if we're not everywhere, but we at least have a foot on the door on each of the regions, right? And definitely we have even the ability to even further expand if needed. And that's what I'm saying.
Let's talk about the growth strategy, the CTI's growth strategy in the MEA region. Where do you see it going in the future?
I think definitely we need to continue to grow in the key markets where we even already have, because we see a lot of opportunities for growth sometimes in countries, as I said, which are already seeking to attract more work, like Saudi Arabia, like United Arab Emirates, like Turkey, potentially Egypt, as we move into North Africa. And also, I see also opportunities in expanding into some countries where we still do not have yet presence, or even work through partners like North Africa or some of the Sub-Saharan and South African, and again, country where we see as well a lot of opportunities. So I think, in the coming period, we will continue to see growth in terms of the volume of the work, but also in the term of our footprint, and also continue to build capacity with our teams, because again, as the region, as the work grows and the region grows, definitely we will need to continue to invest in our capabilities, in our teams, in training, in systems. I think we are definitely see a lot of huge opportunities for growth. We just need to prioritize and see where are the priorities in the first, let's say, coming 2 or 3 years, and then on the longer term, on the 5 to 10 years.
What are you the most excited about in clinical research in the future? And it can be anything, anything at all in clinical research that excites you.
And there is a lot of things that are exciting that still needs to be, definitely the innovation, what we see now, there is a lot of, we talked about vaccines and vaccines for cancer.
Yeah.
That's something exciting. Still, cell and gene therapy, you still see a lot, I think, still are exploring this area and how are we able actually to achieve cure for diseases that were not curable before. It's challenges the cost. Are we really able to make this affordable and available for patients? And I think part of in research, at least, you are able to help patients even in the clinical trials to access some of these newer treatments where they normally would not be able to access, especially in countries even where they don't have access to such newer treatments. This is definitely exciting at the coming. We need to see how this is going to be translated. So being part of that innovation cycle and being part, especially, again, we always talk about CTI working in rare disease, working in what we call difficult to treat patient population, makes it even more obvious because those patients who need the most help, I'm not saying every patient needs help, but those actually sometimes have no treatment. If you're able really to contribute to those studies, that's in itself a very exciting, and motivating, and gives you the will to really continue to grow and continue to see what more patients you want to help, or how can you help bring in more studies to regions where there hasn't been able to access this. That's beside, of course, AI. Now with AI, again, what are the potential to help our business and to help us in the bigger scheme of things? I think everybody's excited, but we still don't really know
how it's going
to use it. And how to use it also rationally and properly as well, without actually, adding risk. There is risk with everything. So again, definitely, but there is a lot of benefits. So again, it's exciting times.
It is.
A lot to learn as well. So there is always new things to learn in our business. And that's what I think keeps the excitement going on.
Well, thank you, Alaa, for joining us on the podcast today and bringing your expertise and all that you do to move medicine forward over there in the MEA region.
Thank you for the time.
That brings us to the end of today's episode. A huge thank you to Alaa for sharing such a thoughtful and inspiring look into the evolution of clinical research across the Middle East and Africa. From a regulatory transformation and vaccine innovation to the growing role of rare disease research, it's clear that the region is not only growing, but leading in meaningful ways. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy discovering how medicine is moving forward, or you are interested in how CTI could help you with clinical research, be sure to subscribe. Follow us on social media or visit our website at ctifacts.com.